Welcome. This is the Evolved Educator podcast. Each episode, we talk about education and teaching. Our goal is for you to feel part of the community, and we want to learn from you, and we hope that you learn something from us too. So welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about creativity in the classroom. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Chanmi.
I'm Michelle.
So I don't know if you guys remember this, but I came across some interesting stats the other day. I sent them to you. They were from...
Right, I saw.
Yeah, 3 points in time. It was like from Fortune 500 and the World Economic Forum or something like that. And it was basically skills that employers most desire. And so it was some skills from 1970, from 1999, and then from 2020. And it was, a lot of interesting stuff like writing and communicating and listening and creativity and all sorts of stuff. Did you guys take a look at it? Did anything stand out to you when you...
I did. I looked at it, and the first thing that came to my mind was, 30 years ago, the skills that employers wanted they were measurable, hard skills. Mm-hmm. And now, and as time moved forward up until now, the skills are more soft skills. So like problem solving and interpersonal skills and teamwork, collaboration, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You really have to get to know somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's more what employers value now.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Definitely.
That's what I noticed. That's what popped out at me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing that stood out for me is that whether it was 1970 or 1999 or recently, creativity was something that was on the list, like every list.
You're right. Creative thinking. You're right.
Creativity. Some of the, in the earlier years, some skills sort of dropped off as we moved forward in time, but creativity did not. It's on all three.
It did. And the priority of it in terms of what employers looked up, it also crept up to the top of the list too.
Right.
It became more important. Yes.
So why do you think creativity has been that one trait that employers are always looking for?
Well, that actually brings us to our segment today. Creativity doesn't equal art. So what would you guys say? What is creativity?
When I think of the word creativity, I think that it's a different way of thinking of things. It's a different way of looking at things. But right now, I'm going to look up the actual definition. And it says it's the mental capacity to see new opportunities, generate novel and useful ideas. So that's kind of a fancy way of what I just said. So it's just a different way of thinking.
Right.
Well,
and in both your definition and the dictionary definition, ideas are at the core. That's what it is. How we develop them, how we understand them, how we communicate them. It's not just in terms of the arts, but in all the thinking that we do and all the work that we do, being able to sort of recognize alternatives and possibilities and adapting and using your imagination.
To solve problems.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Right.
There's a lot of problems in the world.
That's right.
But when we're thinking about this, why is creativity then such an important skill, like that 21st century skill?
Well, it drives innovation.
It probably also increases engagement and motivation. So if like employers want their employees to be motivated, then they want to be able to, have the creativity, an environment of creativity too.
Mm-hmm. Right. It does make people feel engaged and that their contribution is worthwhile. I also think that it's a skill that's kind of future-proof. So, every generation is looking to prepare their students for jobs, and we're looking to prepare students for jobs that don't even exist yet. Mm-hmm. And creativity is the ability to be able to adapt and imagine new things. So it's kind of timeless. Right. And employers need that. We need that. So it's something that it will always exist. And it's interesting we're calling it a skill because it is something that can be developed.
Right.
If you practice. You have to practice.
So like, what can we do to help students develop that skill? I mean, what is a creative classroom? Like, what does it look like? What does it sound like?
Well, I think first, recognizing that it isn't just for the arts. It's not just artistic expression. Just acknowledging that first and foremost, that it happens in everything: engineering, design, and policy making, and cooking, game strategizing. Any problem that we have to solve, lesson planning.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Right. So I'd say, just acknowledging that fact first. And then as teachers, modeling, in our lesson planning, showing creativity in our lesson planning, doing lots of things.
So we're lesson designers and lesson creators, right?
Yep.
Right. So when you're talking about lesson planning, do you mean like looking for and then developing this cognitively demanding tasks? Is that what you mean?
Yes, definitely.
So where the ideas are at the heart of problem solving. So there's a problem and the students are challenged to think of some way to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways to solve the problem.
Right. I mean, so that's why you need to like plan and teach and practice the creative process, and like to really embrace that mindset of exploration and progress. And you can do that by intentionally planning for those hands-on, project-based, they're open-ended, passion projects where the students, like they're researching things that they're interested about.
Mm-hmm. They're driving.
Exactly.
They're driving the learning.
Right.
And I love all of that stuff too, because they really experience that productive struggle.
Right.
Yes.
But they're motivated, which we just talked about with the employers, they're motivated to get to the end because it's their idea. It's theirs. They own it from the beginning.
Right. And like, that's part of the creative process, is that mistakes are inevitable, but they're necessary. That's part of the learning process, but also like trial and error, and then you're guessing and checking to see. Those are just, there are other skills that are really important too.
Definitely.
And then some other things to do as a teacher. I know I do some things. What do you do, Jennifer? I know I try to add like a lot of different kinds of resources.
So I try to vary and add new materials or different strategies. Like I try to sometimes consider something that's a little more unconventional that I'm not using frequently, like maybe using podcasts in a lesson or TED Talks, having kids sketch. I love looking at data and maps and infographics, having the kids actually participate in some field work, getting them outside and some real research and observation.
Yes.
Things like that where they've got more choices and more freedom, and those creative juices are flowing.
Yes. And mixing it up like that just automatically helps to make it all more memorable too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just while we're talking, I thought of about 20 new topics to follow up for some future podcasts here. There's a lot going on here.
I know. Yeah. We definitely could explore almost everything on that list.
Yes.
But the lesson is that creativity obviously is an extremely important 21st century skill, because we know that it exists in many different forms across many different areas of work and thinking and problem solving, and it's something that can be developed.
Yes, absolutely. It just takes lots of practice, but that's why we're here, right?
That's right.
So thank you for that. I love it. So do you have a strategy that gets the W for us today, so we can send our listeners off with a little goodie, something they can use in their classroom right now?
I do. And I love this one. I think I've told you guys this before. I've used this strategy, but I don't know if I ever knew what its true name was. And it's called alternative uses. And it's actually a test that was developed by this person, J.P. Guilford, in 1967.
Wow.
And it supposedly measures the levels of divergent thinking. And it's so cool. And it's the easiest thing to do. It literally takes 2 minutes. In fact, that's what the test is you give a student or individual, anyone, 2 minutes to think of as many possible uses for an everyday object. So for example, like a paperclip.
Mm-hmm.
How many different uses can you think of?
Mm-hmm. I love it, because I can imagine how that would measure something like fluency.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, how many ways can you come up with something? So there's all kinds of vocabulary coming up there, and there's a lot going on.
Right, and
a lot
measuring
of
like originality. You know, how many different sort of uncommon outside the box uses can you think of?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of original thinking there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like students then become really flexible in their thinking too. That brings in the creativity.
Right. Because right now I'm thinking of a million different ways to use a paperclip that are not intended, but
Right.
yeah, and then you could take it a step further and get into elaborating on that, and
there's even great extensions. I bet you could do that. Like you can, personify the object and create stories from it. There's just so many ways you can go.
Right.
Yeah, there are so many benefits, really. I mean, obviously, it encourages this divergent thinking, this creativity. And because it's so quick, you can do it often. And it's fun, and the kids love it. They get practice explaining their ideas and defending them. A lot of kids will say, but what if this and what if that? And so they have to defend it. And, just practice generating ideas. And there's no right or wrong answer. I mean,
Plus it just sounds fun.
Yeah, it is.
It does.
Really, yeah.
It's just thinking, and you could do it individually, with pairs, in a small group. It's good. I love it.
Right.
So alternative uses is the strategy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. I think our time is over right now, but thank you for listening.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.